What if the greatest power you will ever wield is not the power to acquire, but the power to refuse? What if true strength is not measured by the weight you can carry, but by the burdens you have learned to set down? In a world that screams for more followers, more achievements, more possessions, the ancient Stoics offered a radical path to freedom, one that begins not with addition, but with a quiet, deliberate, and unapologetic act of subtraction. By the end of our time together, you will understand how this quiet power is the architect of an unbreakable life, a fortress within yourself that no external chaos can breach. This exploration is a philosophical one, a dialogue with ancient wisdom adapted for modern minds. It is not medical or legal advice, nor is it a substitute for your own critical judgment. The Stoics taught, above all, the importance of taking responsibility for our own minds. In that spirit, consider these ideas as tools, not as dogma. Test them, question them, and determine for yourself what holds value. The final authority on your life is, and always will be, you. We begin with the most common and perhaps the most corrosive burden we carry, the mask. It is the face we present to the world when we fear our own is not enough. We craft it in childhood to please our parents, we polish it in adolescence to fit in with our peers, and we perfect it in adulthood to satisfy employers, partners, and the silent judgment of 1,000 online strangers. It is the agreeable employee who nods at a decision they know is flawed, the cheerful friend who laughs at a joke that makes their stomach turn, the curated social media persona whose life is a gallery of flawless moments, hiding the messy, beautiful, and utterly human reality behind the curtain. The Stoics had a term for the ideal state of being, living in accordance with nature. This did not mean returning to the wilderness. It meant living in harmony with our own rational, authentic nature. The mask is a declaration of war against this principle. Each time we put it on, we trade a piece of our soul for a moment of social peace. We may gain approval, but we lose self-respect. Seneca warned that a life spent in performance for others is a form of slavery. The master is not a person, but an amorphous fear, the fear of rejection, of conflict, of being truly seen. Inside, we begin to starve. The laughter doesn't reach our eyes, the success feels hollow. We become a ghost in our own life story. Consider the story of a man we'll call Alex. Alex was the embodiment of corporate success. He was the first to arrive, the last to leave. He anticipated his boss's needs before they were spoken. He presented flawless reports, spoke with measured confidence, and never, ever showed a moment of vulnerability or doubt. He wore the mask of the perfect executive, and it worked. He climbed the ladder with astonishing speed, earning promotions, bonuses, and the envy of his colleagues. But with each step up, the mask grew heavier. He was celebrated for a person he wasn't. The real Alex, who had doubts, who loved poetry, who felt a deep unease about the company's ethical shortcuts, was locked away. His relationships were transactional. His evenings were spent in a state of anxious exhaustion, and the person in the mirror was a stranger. One day, after securing the biggest promotion of his career, he sat in his expensive car in the parking garage and felt nothing. Not joy, not pride, only a vast, terrifying emptiness. The mask had consumed the man. His downfall was not a dramatic firing, but a quiet, internal collapse. He had won the game, but lost himself. Removing the mask is not an act of aggression. It is a quiet, internal decision to stop lying. It is done without announcement or apology. You simply begin to speak your considered truth with respect. You learn to say no to requests that violate your values. You allow your authentic sense of humor, your genuine curiosity, your moments of uncertainty to surface. The consequences can feel seismic at first. Some people, those who benefited from your mask, will be confused or angered. Friendships built on a false foundation may crumble, but this is not a loss. It is a clarification. As the inauthentic connections fade, the space they occupied becomes fertile ground for genuine relationships, to grow relationships with people who are drawn to you, not to the character you played. This is the first, most crucial act of liberation. It is the decision to live in truth, and it is the foundation upon which an unbreakable life is built. This act of living truthfully is immediately tested by a related habit, the constant need for justification. Once you remove the mask, you will feel an immense pressure to explain your new, authentic self to the world. Why did you leave that prestigious job? Why did you end that relationship everyone thought was perfect? Why are you choosing a quieter, simpler life? We live in an age of perpetual explanation. Social media demands we caption our lives, defend our choices in comment sections, and build a public case for our own existence. But the Stoics taught a different path. Epictetus put it bluntly: don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Constant justification is a sign that you are still seeking external validation. It is a subtle reversion to wearing the mask, only now you are trying to craft a mask of words, a narrative that will make your choices palatable to others. It drains your energy and weakens your resolve. Your focus shifts from your own internal compass, your values, your reason, to the shifting winds of public opinion. True power lies in conviction, not in consensus. When you have reasoned through a decision and know it to be right for you, according to your principles, that is enough. You do not owe the world a dissertation. Your peace, your actions, your quiet integrity will be the only explanation required. Let your life be the argument. This silence is not weakness, it is a profound form of strength. It declares that your internal court of judgment is the only one that holds ultimate jurisdiction over your life. This inward turn naturally leads us away from another draining, external-facing habit, the habit of criticizing others. It is far easier to diagnose the flaws in someone else's character, career, or relationships than to perform the rigorous and uncomfortable work of examining our own. Criticism is a shield. It deflects our attention from our own shortcomings. When we point a finger at another, we create a momentary illusion of superiority. For a brief second, we feel righteous, wise, or more disciplined. But this feeling is a cheap counterfeit of genuine self-worth. The Stoics were ruthless in their call for self-examination. Marcus Aurelius filled his journal, the Times Meditations *, not with critiques of his generals or courtiers, but with relentless scrutiny of his own thoughts, judgments, and reactions. He understood that the only project worthy of his full attention was the cultivation of his own character. Every ounce of energy spent judging another person is energy stolen from your own self-improvement. It produces no growth, only a corrosive sense of cynicism. Today, this habit is amplified into a global roar. Social media platforms thrive on judgment. News cycles are fueled by outrage. We are encouraged to form strong, immediate opinions about people we have never met and situations we do not fully understand. To eliminate this habit is not to become passive or to condone wrongdoing. It is to shift your focus from diagnosis to action and to recognize that the only person you can truly act upon is yourself. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with them?" the Stoic asks, "What does this situation reveal about my own reactions? What virtue can I practice in this moment? Patience, understanding, or perhaps just silence?" This redirection of focus turns judgment into responsibility. It is the difference between being a spectator in the stands, shouting critiques at the players, and being an athlete on the field, focused on your own performance. The world has enough critics. It needs more models of self-mastery. The root of these three social habits, the mask, the justification, the criticism, is often a deeper affliction, emotional dependence. This is the state in which your inner peace is held hostage by the actions, opinions, or presence of another person. It is the belief that your well-being is something that must be given to you from the outside. The desire for love, connection, and acceptance is a natural part of being human. But emotional dependence twists this desire into a desperate need. It turns affection into an addiction. A delayed text message can trigger a spiral of anxiety. A word of criticism can feel like a verdict on your entire worth. The absence of a partner can feel like a collapse of your identity. Epictetus taught that freedom is impossible as long as we tie our happiness to things outside of our control. And what is more outside of our control than the inner world of another person? Their moods, their choices, their feelings, these are their own. To build your emotional home on this volatile ground is to guarantee a life of anxiety. You surrender the keys to your own fortress. Modern culture often romanticizes this dependency, framing it as passion or deep love. We talk of finding our other half as if we are inherently incomplete. The Stoic view is radically different. A healthy relationship is not one of a half-person seeking completion. It is a union of two whole people, two complete fortresses, choosing to share their strength, their peace, and their journey. Their happiness is a welcome addition to their life, not the source of it. To eliminate emotional dependence is to undertake the quiet, steady work of building your own inner stability. It is to learn to self-soothe, to validate your own worth, to find contentment in your own company. It means cultivating friendships and relationships from a place of abundance, not scarcity. You connect with others not because you need them to fix you or complete you, but because you choose to share your wholeness with them. This is the foundation of a love built on freedom, not on need. It is a love that can withstand storms, because each person is securely anchored in their own being. Having secured our social footing, we turn inward to confront our relationship with the most elusive resource of all, time. We are, most of us, time travelers, but we travel poorly. We are either chained to the past or anxious about the future, and in doing so, we rob the present of its vitality. Let us first address the chains of the past. These are the memories of failure, betrayal, and humiliation that we allow to define us. A business that failed, a relationship that ended in heartbreak, a mistake that caused deep embarrassment. These events can echo in our minds for years, shaping our decisions in ways we don't even notice. We become reluctant to take risks, hesitant to trust, and hypercritical of ourselves. But the Stoics offer a liberating insight. It is not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The past does not exist as a living force. It survives only in the stories we choose to tell ourselves about it. The chains are not the events, they are the narratives of victimhood and failure we forge from them. Consider the story of a woman we'll call Maria. Maria had poured her life savings and 5 years of her life into a tech startup that ultimately failed. The failure was not just financial. It felt like a public verdict on her intelligence, her competence, her worth. For years afterward, she was haunted. She took a safe, unfulfilling job and turned down every opportunity that involved even a hint of risk. The story she told herself was, "I am a failure. I don't have what it takes." The past was not just a memory, it was the prison she lived in. Her awakening came not from a single dramatic event, but from a slow, deliberate process of reframing, much like the Stoic practice of journaling. She began to look at the failure not as an identity, but as a data set. What had she learned about marketing, about managing a team, about her own blind spots? She started to rewrite the story. The failed business was no longer a monument to her inadequacy. It became a brutal but effective education. The betrayal of a business partner became a lesson in due diligence and human nature. The public embarrassment became a lesson in resilience. She learned that her worth was not tied to a single outcome. By changing the judgment, she broke the chains. The past transformed from a jailer into a teacher. She eventually started a new, smaller consulting business, built on the hard-won wisdom of her failure. She was not fearless, but she was free, operating not from a place of trauma, but from a place of experience. Just as we can be imprisoned by the past, we can be terrorized by a future that does not exist. This is the nature of anxiety. Anxiety is the habit of experiencing failure in advance. We lie awake at night rehearsing a job interview, imagining every possible misstep. We read a news headline and spiral into visions of economic collapse. We feel a minor physical symptom, and our mind constructs a fatal diagnosis. The Stoics saw this as a profound misuse of our rational mind. Our ability to imagine and plan is a powerful tool, but when undisciplined, it becomes a machine for self-torture. We suffer in imagination from calamities that, in reality, rarely come to pass. And even if they do, we have suffered twice, once in our minds and once in reality. The modern world is an anxiety accelerant. Our phones deliver a constant stream of potential threats, worst-case scenarios, and social comparisons that fuel our insecurity. The Stoic response to this is not to ignore risk or to pretend that bad things don't happen. It is to shift from prediction to preparation. Instead of trying to guess precisely what the future holds, you focus on strengthening your capacity to handle whatever comes. You cannot control the economy, but you can control your spending habits and your skills. You cannot predict a future illness, but you can control your diet and exercise today. You cannot control how an interviewer will perceive you, but you can control how well you prepare. This shift turns fear into productive action. You stop being a fortune teller and become a strategist. You build your resilience, your inner fortress, so that you are prepared for any weather, rather than trying to predict the forecast for an entire lifetime. Caught between the ghosts of the past and the phantoms of the future, we commit the greatest theft against ourselves: procrastination. We postpone the important conversation, the creative project, the journey of self-improvement, always telling ourselves that tomorrow will be the right day. Tomorrow we will have more energy, more motivation, more time. But the Stoics viewed time with a stark and unsentimental clarity. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Time is the only resource we are given that we cannot regenerate. Every day squandered is a day lost forever." In the modern era, procrastination often disguises itself as productivity. We spend hours clearing our email inbox, organizing files, or scrolling through articles about self-improvement, convincing ourselves we are busy. But we are merely engaging in busy work to avoid the one task that truly matters, the one that involves vulnerability, deep focus, or the risk of failure. We binge-watch a series to escape the discomfort of starting the first paragraph of our novel. Procrastination is not laziness, it is a form of fear. It is the fear of judgment, the fear of inadequacy, the fear of the effort required. The antidote is not to wait for a wave of motivation. Motivation is a fickle visitor. The Stoic antidote is discipline, which is simply the choice to act now, even imperfectly. It is the decision to do the next necessary thing, right now, for the next 15 minutes. You don't have to write the whole book. You just have to write one sentence. You don't have to launch the whole business. You just have to make one phone call. To eliminate procrastination is to understand that tomorrow is a story, a promise that may never be kept. Today, this present moment, is the only arena in which your life is actually lived. We have addressed our relationship with others and our relationship with time. Now, we turn to the final, most intimate domain, the mastery of the self. This involves confronting the internal forces that corrode our peace and vitality from within. We begin with resentment, which Seneca described as a kind of acid that does more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. To hold a grudge is to chain yourself to the person or event that harmed you. You replay the injustice in your mind, feeding it with your anger, keeping the wound fresh. You are, in effect, allowing someone from your past to continue living inside your head, rent-free. Resentment feels righteous. It feels justified, but it is a strategic disaster. It changes nothing about the past. It only poisons your present. The energy you spend stewing in anger is energy that could be used to build your future, to heal, or to create. To eliminate resentment is an act of profound pragmatism. It is not about condoning the wrong that was done to you. It is not about forgetting. Stoic forgiveness is not an act of mercy for the other person. It is an act of liberation for yourself. It is the decision to cut the chain, to revoke the other person's access to your inner peace. It is a declaration that your present and future are too valuable to be corrupted by the venom of the past. You choose to reclaim your emotional energy for your own purposes. You may still recognize the injustice, but you refuse to let it consume you. You turn your attention back to what is within your control, your own thoughts, your own actions, your own life, right now. Resentment often finds fuel in a deeper, more pervasive illusion, the idea that our happiness lies in some future milestone. If only I get that promotion, then I'll be happy. When I buy that house, then I'll be at peace. Once I find the perfect partner, then my life will be complete. We live our lives in a state of perpetual if-then. This is one of humanity's most enduring and destructive illusions. We chase a horizon that recedes as we approach it. When we finally achieve the goal, the satisfaction is fleeting, and our eyes quickly fix on the next milestone. It is an endless race with no finish line. The Stoics rejected this model of happiness entirely. For them, happiness, or times eudaimonia asterisk, a state of flourishing and inner well-being, was not a prize to be won at the end of a struggle. It was a condition created by the quality of our actions in each present moment. It is a byproduct of living with virtue, integrity, and purpose. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. To eliminate the illusion of future happiness is to shift your focus from destination to practice. It is to find joy not in the achievement, but in the striving. It is to cultivate gratitude for what you have right now, even as you work towards your goals. It is to understand that happiness is not something you find out there. It is something you build in here, through the alignment of your daily actions with your deepest values. This is not complacency. It is liberation from the exhausting, endless chase. This inner work cannot be done if the very vessel your body and mind is neglected. This brings us to the destructive habits that quietly erode our foundations. The Stoics understood that the mind and body are inextricably linked. A weak body can weaken the will. A distracted mind can lead to poor physical choices. They practice discipline not as a form of punishment, but as a path to freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of impulse, freedom from weakness, freedom to live with strength and clarity. In modern life, destructive habits are normalized and monetized. Endless scrolling on social media is designed to fracture our attention. Processed foods are engineered to be addictive, numbing our energy. Negative self-talk becomes a constant internal monologue that poisons our confidence. Sleep is treated as a luxury rather than a biological necessity. We slowly, day by day, corrode our own vitality. This is the story of a young man we can call James. James was not in any acute crisis, but he was adrift. His days were a blur of digital distraction and mindless consumption. He'd wake up and immediately reach for his phone, flooding his mind with outrage and comparison before his feet even hit the floor. His diet consisted of convenient processed foods that left him feeling sluggish. He stayed up late, binge-watching shows, only to feel exhausted the next day. He had dreams and ambitions, but they felt distant, impossible. He was caught in a gravitational pull of low-grade, destructive habits. His transformation did not begin with a grand, life-altering plan. It began with a single, small, Stoic act of self-respect. He decided that for the first hour of every day, he would not touch his phone. Instead, he would go for a walk. That simple walk changed everything. It was not about fitness. It was about reclaiming a small piece of his own mind. In the quiet of the morning, without digital input, his own thoughts began to surface. He started his day with clarity instead of chaos. This one act of discipline became a keystone. Because he felt better in the mornings, he started wanting to protect that feeling. He began to eat a healthier breakfast. Because he had more energy, he found it easier to focus on his work. The small daily act of choosing a walk over a screen was an investment in his own resilience. It was the architectural work of building a better self, one small, well-laid brick at a time. He was not chasing perfection. He was cultivating respect for the mind and body he had been given. He was learning that discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is its essential precondition. And so, we arrive back at the beginning, at that question of power. What is the greatest power you can wield? It is the quiet power to refuse, the power to refuse the mask of social expectation and live in your own truth. The power to refuse the chains of past judgments and see your history as a source of wisdom. The power to refuse the tyranny of future anxieties and anchor yourself in present action. The power to refuse the poison of resentment and reclaim your inner peace. The power to refuse the illusion that happiness is elsewhere and to cultivate it within yourself, right now. It is the power to refuse the constant justification, the endless criticism of others, the slow corrosion of destructive habits. This is the construction of the inner fortress. It is not built by adding more, but by clearing away the debris. You remove what is weak, what is false, what is externally dependent, so that what remains is strong, true, and self-reliant. The work, then, is not to become a new person, but to excavate the true one who has been buried under years of fear, habit, and illusion. It is to learn that the past is a teacher, not a jailer. It is to understand that the future is a possibility to be prepared for, not a horror to be rehearsed. It is to build a life not on the promise of future rewards, but on the integrity of present action. You eliminate these burdens in silence. You do not announce your new philosophy, you live it. Your newfound calm, your focused action, your resilience in the face of adversity, these will speak far louder than any words ever could. This is the quiet strength, the unbreakable freedom that the Stoics promised. It is a power available to you, right now, in the very next choice you make. We have spoken of what to remove, of the burdens to set down, but what of the tools we use to train for what remains? How do we build the strength to not only endure life's storms, but to use their winds to sail forward? The act of removal creates a space, and that space must be filled with practice and intention. Perhaps in our next conversation, we can explore the rigorous Stoic practice of preparing for hardship before it arrives, the art of visualizing challenges not to create anxiety, but to build an invincible resilience. We can discuss how to turn obstacles into opportunities and how to view every difficulty not as a roadblock, but as a partner in our training. The journey of subtraction is the first half of building an unbreakable life. The second is the art of fortification,